Good afternoon to all the good viewers of this program. Let's try this again. Sorry about that. I was baking something and some of what was being baked spilled inside the oven and a lot of smoke came out and I had to deal with that before it became something worse. Merry Christmas to everybody once again. No matter what time you're watching this program, daytime, nighttime, whenever you're seeing it, allow us to share this link in Telegram for everybody so that everyone can have a chance of viewing this program. I'll also go back into it again from my phone so that if there's any problems, I can fix it. So today we'll be talking about the 29th part of Musa al-Kazim, the sadistic serial killer. We'll make sure that we have our discussion. All right. I think my pen was wrong, so I fixed it. Hopefully there's no problems with the pens on our suit. Allow me to share for you the link, not the link, but the source of what we're going to be talking about so that you all have a chance of reading it along with me. All right. So now you should have this information. We're going to continue from a little bit of a recap of what we had discussed before. If you remember before, we had talked about Fadak. And Fadak is an area where everyone who's discussing it, no matter if they're Shia or Sunni, which branch of Islam, because Islam is like a tree, it has two main branches, which are Shia and Sunni, and they all have branches of their own, sub-branches. So depending on which one you're looking at, everyone has talked about this piece of land called Fadak before. And they will tell you the story about how the Shias will say the Prophet of Islam took this land from the Jews and gave it to his daughter Fatima, and she's the proud sole owner of Fadak, and it's been in the family until when Muhammad died of the poison he was given, and later on got eaten by the wild dogs of the streets. And this land was then taken by Omar and Abu Bakr and given to Aisha, daughter of Abu Bakr. And how the Shia Imams have been fighting to get this land back. And they will tell you long, long stories about it. How the door was broken, the nail went inside Fatima's stomach, killing her unborn child, Mohsen. And the story goes on and on and on. The Shia will tell you this. The Sunni will tell you, yes, there was a Fadak, there's a dispute, and then, the people that became the Caliphs, Abu Bakr and Umar, they all decided it belongs to the Muslims and not just to the family of the Prophet, but they gave it to the wife of the Prophet. So that's the story they're giving. Fast forward to the time of Musa al-Kazim. Harun al-Rashid is trying to figure out what crimes this guy really committed and what are alleged crimes that he never really committed. So he's interviewing him on multiple times, trying to come up with the idea to find out what is going on and how to correctly deal with the situation. So he's asking him, tell me about Fadak. Tell me what this Fadak is. Where are the borders of your Fadak? Like, for example, today in modern time, when someone buys a house, right? In your deed, it says it's 3,000 square feet, 10,000 square feet. If you buy big land, they'll say like there's 1 acre, 2 acre, 3 acre. There's normally a line around it that portrays from where to where your land starts and finishes. So Harun al-Rashid is trying to find this out. And now Musa al-Kazim is going to explain to us from where to where is the length of this fadak. Okay? So he decides that he's going to give us this reasoning. So here we see among the reasons which filled Harun so with malice and against the Imam here is the seventh Imam of the Shia Muslims, Musa al-Kazim, which majority of Muslims around the world who are Shia believe this guy to be their seventh Imam. Okay? Anyone who's an Ithna Ashari Muslim, some of the Boras, they all believe this is their Imam. Rightly guided, handpicked by their so-called God, Allah. This is supposed to be their Imam. Okay? So, here he says, regarding the borders of fadak, right? Borders of fadak. You see? Borders of fadak. It's been highlighted. It indicates that it includes most of Islamic areas. Most of Islamic areas. Okay? It includes most of Islamic areas. Key words. You know, when I say these things over and over, because it's a key word. It's highlighted now for you here. You see, most of the Islamic areas. Okay? So put yourself back in 1,400 years ago. Here is this character named Muhammad, who's a pedophile and a serial killer, mass murderer. And this Muhammad, who's a pedophile, serial killer, mass murderer, just occupied a whole bunch of lands. And majority of this land that he just occupied, according to what we just see right now in front of us highlighted, most of the Islamic land, is part of fadak. So now Harun is trying to find out what he means. So Harun al-Rashid is asking him, what are its borders? You know, tell me what this is. So here's the answer. As for the first border is Aden, right? You go to Aden, the city of Aden. From Aden it starts. That's the first border. Okay, that's the first border. So where Aden is, the borderland starts. You know, draw a line. As for its second border, you know, you got to go like A to B to C to D. You know, you want to know how wide, how long, you know, you want to. So the second border is Samarkand. Okay, Samarkand. So go all the way. It starts in Aden and it goes over all of the Iranian lands, all these Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, Azerbaijan's, and you know, Tajikistan's and Afghanistan's and all the Ostans that belong to Iran. Add them all up. And that's the other side of the border. Its third border, here he puts Africa. You know, you might say, what the heck is that? Well, Africa is the continent known as Africa. But here, if you see, he added a Y and an A. Y and an A added on, it doesn't become just a land no more. Now you're talking about a people. So Africans. So initially, all you black folks out there, you know, if you have been even taken out of your African continent by slave traders and have now been placed in places like Jamaica, Barbados, and all these other Caribbean islands, if you have found your way somehow to South American countries, North American countries, if you ended up in England and France and everywhere else, all of you, you know, African Americans, African Canadians, African this and that, all of you dark-skinned folks belong as a border of this Fadak land to the household of the Prophet of Islam. Okay? He owns all of you. All of you are his land property, because we are not talking about land no more. If it was just the land of Africa, the continent of Africa, this would be called Africa with an A at the end of the Q, not a YA at the end of the Q. When the YA comes in, we're talking about you, the human being. You are part of the border, which means you are owned. Okay? Don't ever let these Muslims tell you they don't believe in slavery. Their leaders were pro-slavery. They still believe in slavery up till today. They change what they tell you when they see you, because they don't want you to know the truth. But in reality, this is what they are. As for its fourth border, you know, now we're getting to the fourth border. It is Saif al-Bahar, beyond the islands of Armenia. So initially, this is what it is. The continent of Africa and all of its people, all of the Iranian lands. And here, I have to open up a paragraph for you, okay? You know, for a long time, they tried to portray Iranians as Persian, you know, like a Persian cat. They're Persian. Everybody's a Persian. And they've said it so much that even the Iranians that are against the Islamic Republic of Iran, out of trying to show that they are different from the Islamic Republic of Iran, they've adopted saying they're Persian, but they don't understand this is a trap. No one should be referring to Iranians as Persian. Persians are a tribe of Iranians. It doesn't mean they're all of Iranians are Persians. That's incorrect. Kurds are also Persian, because they're another tribe. If you want to call them that, they're all the same. Baluch, Azeri, Lori, all of these different groups, all of these different tribes, they are all Iranian. Iran means the homeland of Aryana. Aryana in English is translated as Aryan, meaning these are the lands of the white people. So in Islam, they took all of Iran's lands and all of Africa's lands, including all of the African people, including all of the Iranians, and they made them their property. Just like we showed you in the previous Imams, how they took slaves from the Iranians, and then afterwards they started taking slaves now from the Africans. They believed in having Iranians and Africans as their slaves. This is the ideology. The Arabs will sit on top and everybody else is a slave. All of these countries that end with the Ustan, all of them at some time or another, they belong to Iranian land. At least majority of their people do. Majority of their days of celebrations, national holidays, are Iranian holidays. Majority of their culture is Iranian culture. You see, there is the globalist ideology that they want a new map for the Middle East. They want to take old countries, old civilizations, tear them down, give them new names, take tribes out of them, promote those tribes as new tribes. For example, if anyone has ever done a brief study, historical study of the continent of Asia, they will know that in the continent of Asia, there are different types of countries. In each of these countries, you have many, many different tribes that make up the people of that country. Amongst those tribes, you will find that they have different languages. So, for example, if you go to Philippines, not all Filipinos speak the exact same dialect of Filipinos' language, which is Philippine. They speak different languages. Sometimes they cannot understand each other, depending on how far their islands are from each other. Whereas they may have a lot of similarities in their words too. We'll take another example. You look at Indonesia. Indonesia has multiple different languages. Not all of them speak the same language. They have different tribes. Not all the tribes have the same exact culture as the next one, but as a whole, they have the same thing. We'll take another example. India. There are multiple languages in India. Multiple tribes in India. They don't speak the same language. They're not the same tribe, but they are all Indian. They call themselves Desi. Even other countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and the rest fall under Desi category. They are the same. They eat the same similar type of food. They have the same type of stuff. Now, depending if they are Muslim or Hindu, Buddhist or Zoroastrian, they may not celebrate the same holiday because this one celebrates an Islamic holiday because they are a Muslim, and that one celebrates a Hindu holiday because he is a Hindu, but they are still one nation. Another example for you, Israel. You have the 12 tribes of Judah. You didn't say there is 12 nationalities and Israel is only one out of 12 and there should be 12 countries for the Jews. No, you say there is one country, Israel, and 12 tribes that make up those people. Same happens for Iran. It was not Persia, it was Aryana. The Achaemenid were part of Aryana. The Parthians were part of Aryana. The Sassanid were part of Aryana. They are all Aryana. Just because a bunch of Greeks who called us barbarians because they were at war with us decided to isolate one tribe and call it Persia because one tribe is named Persia, and wrote it in their books as Persia doesn't give the rest of the planet the right to sum up all of Iran's different tribes and call them Persia. And then say, oh, we made a mistake. Now we got to take the other tribes out and give them their own countries because they're not Persian. That doesn't work. Just like all these other examples I gave you of people with multiple tribes, even the Chinese have multiple tribes. They have multiple languages. This is how Asia works. It doesn't mean everybody who has a different language or a different clothing is going to just all of a sudden, boom, get a new nation of their own. That's not how it works. And you'll find a lot of YouTube channels with people from the West trying to teach others from the West about Iran, about different tribes of Iranians, like the Kurds, who they will mispronounce their names and call them Kurds with a U instead of an O, and try to make them into a new country. The Baluch, they will try to turn into a new country. The Lor, they will try to turn into a new country. The Iranian Arabs who've been in Iran for thousands of years, who've mixed with Iranians, have Iranian culture, have Iranian New Year, have Iranian everything, can speak Farsi better than you and I. Oh, they must be Arabs now. The Kurdish tribes in Iran, oh, they must be a new country. Oh, what's left? You want to carve every part of Iran into a new country of its own? What are you going to be left with? Nothing. This is the ideology of the globalism. You see, there was an era where there was slavery, which the Europeans learned from these Muslims. And these Muslims learned it from Africans and others. There was slavery happening in Asia amongst Asians. There was slavery happening in Africa amongst Africans. These guys came and they were slavery on steroids. They started doing slavery everywhere, from everyone. These Muslims, the Arab Muslims of 1,400 years ago. I mean, they still do behind the curtain, but at least it's not as open to that as it used to be. They taught this disease to the Europeans too. They learned it from them. You know, they're together. They saw what they do and they say, oh, these guys are doing it. Well, we'll do it too. It's profitable business. As you can see, it's still in their books. These are today's books that we're looking at. But the Muslim, when he sees you face to face, he doesn't tell you this. Could be because he's never read it. We can give him the benefit of the doubt that he's illiterate. He doesn't know his own religion, has never known it, doesn't know about it, has never seen it, has never come apart this. But it's not just in this book. It's in every single book. From the Sahih Muslims to the Sahih Bukharis to the Tirmidhis to the rest. All of the books have. You can't find a book that tells you hadith from the Prophet that doesn't have slaves. Because he will cover it. He had slaves. There's no way around it. All of his friends had slaves. All of his Ahl al-Bayt, which are supposed to be the male members of his family, according to the Shia terminology, they all had slaves. All of their friends had slaves. I mean, the slaves are there. So there is no way to go around that. There used to be an era with slaves, and now we're in an era where we cannot openly have slaves. So what we have is, we have countries that we make up, We put a puppet president in there, or a puppet spiritual leader like Cockroach Ali Khamenei, and this person will do the bidding of the West. They will become the evil person we have to kill. And because of that, now we can sanction the people of the country. Now we can sanction the product of the country. And now we can buy oil from that person at cheap, low prices. We'll just bring Democrats to power, and the Democrats will give them money so that the government can stay powerful while their people stay weak, so that the government stays where it's supposed to be. And then we will control them. We will sell their neighbors all kinds of weapons based on the theory that if you don't buy our weapons, you see that Cockroach Khamenei? Well, he's going to come and take you over. So you have to buy our weapons so that we can help you use our weapons to defend you against the Cockroach Khamenei, who we also put in power. Remember, it was Carter who put him in power, and his advisor was Joe Biden. So 45 years of a coup. You want to talk coup? This is coup. You see, coup is when someone of a lower level, okay? This is a king. And then you have Joe Schmo over here, who's a nobody. And Joe Schmo over here does a coup on a king and takes his place. A king who's at the top cannot do a coup on Joe Schmo, who's down here, and go downwards. A coup goes upwards. So when they tell you that the CIA did a coup on the Prime Minister of Iran, Mossavat, and put in power the King of Iran, it's a lie. By its definition, it cannot be a coup, because the King of Iran was there before Mossavat. He was there during the time of Mossavat, and he was there after the time of Mossavat. Prime Minister is not a higher position than a king. If it was, and there was a coup done, then the King of Iran should have turned into the Prime Minister of Iran, not stay King of Iran. They lie to you. Their hands are in their own pockets. They're connected to each other. They back each other. They make up stories because Islam dies without stories. And they need help with other lie type stories to keep them where they are. They tell you Mossavat wanted to make the oil of Iran national for the Iranians. This was only done because the king told him, go to the United Nations and say this, proclaim it. Mossavat only could do what the King of Iran allows him to do. Just like in the British Parliament, if the king is not there and his scepter is not there, they cannot start talks. In order for Parliament to open and for all the parliamentary people to come in there and do whatever they want to do and say whatever they want to say, pass any laws that they want to pass, for that guy to sit there and go, order, 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 for him to do all that, they need the scepter, not even the king. His scepter has to be in the room. Meaning his scepter has more power than the Prime Minister of England. And over here, they're going to tell you that the Prime Minister of Iran was so powerful that the King of Iran, I mean, everything's under his hand. The military is under his hand. The Secret Service is under his hand. The power is under his hand. all he has to do is come out and say, arrest this guy, and everyone has to follow the king's order. This king is so weak that he needs CIA and the American military to come aid his Iranian military to take out one prime minister. What kind of joke is this? You see, a little bit of brains, a little bit of thinking goes a long way. You can say CIA shared intel that, oh, King of Iran, your prime minister wants to overthrow you. Deal with him. That we can believe. Sharing intel happens all the time with all the countries. That is something. But to overthrow and commit a coup on a lower status, that doesn't fly. Don't fall for these things. They tell you another story. It's important we talk about it. Every academia you go to, when they teach you about Islam, they tell you a lie. The first lie they tell you, unanimously, across the board, Shia, Sunni, Western academia, all of them, same lie. They all tell you the same lie. There used to be a place called Mecca. Oh, Mecca was a trading zone. People from around the world, from Europe, the Roman, the Persians, the Indian, the Chinese, the African, everybody would come to this one area so they can sell their stuff. Good? Yeah, there is a place called Mecca. Oh, yeah. Then you go and you look up this Mecca, and you find it to be in a desert of little rocks, not even sand. It's a rocky desert. There is nothing there. No water, no food, nothing. And there is only like a handful of people living in this area, according to them. And everyone from around the planet is coming and merging there to sell what to who? And by the way, don't forget, this isn't today. This is 1,400 years ago and before. So they had to use horses, donkeys. They had to use other types of animals, like camels. So imagine, you are a business owner. You want to sell fruits. Your fruit has an expiry date. I mean, in the condition of open air and everything, affected by the weather, you don't have a refrigerator. You can't keep it cool. There is no AC. You are going to leave, let's say, Bombay, India, which today they call Mumbai, India, okay, from one side of Asia. You're going to travel all the way through all the different states of India, all its cities, and everyone who comes to buy, you're going to say, nah, don't touch. And then you're going to go through Iran and all of its cities, and every time someone comes to buy, you say, don't touch. And then you're going to go all the way across all the deserts of the Middle East. And you're going to find your way eventually through little mountains here and there to this small, rocky, deserted area. And now you're going to say, all right, everybody, here we are. Who wants to buy my fruits? Your rotten fruits. By the time you reach there, it's rotten. Your animals who are carrying it by the time you reach there are dead. I mean, you need water. You need food. Why would you carry all of that in a long way to a dead-end zone to sell? Now, who's going to buy it? Nobody. There's nobody there. Logic says, logic indicates, if you want to sell, you go to a city that has people. You see, the guy from India is not going to go all the way to Rome. He's not going to go all the way to Saudi Arabia. He's going to sell to the city beside him, who will sell to the city beside them, who will sell to the city beside them, who will sell to the city beside them, who will sell to the city beside them. And eventually this will go from the hand of one city owner to another, to another, to another, from one country to another, to another, to another. And eventually, if it still lasts, it'll go to another country. There was no such trade that comes down into a place where nobody lives. A city that is not on any old map. There's no historical map from the 4th century, the 5th century, the 6th century that has this Mecca place on it. If it is such an important place, somebody's map would have had it. The Europeans don't have such a place. The Iranians who are right beside it don't know of such a place. Indians don't know it. The Chinese don't know. Nobody knows it. How did they come there if nobody knows about this place? What they don't want you to know is that whole Arabian Peninsula had multiple little towns and cities that the Iranian Jews were living in. These cities were militaristic cities, designed so that the city-state that today is called Yemen, which was under the power of the Kingdom of Iran, connected through the Sassanid Empire, the military can bypass and go through. It was also so that the Iranian Jews can have their influence on the Jews in Israel, which they did. And the Jews in Israel were the partners, long historical partners of the country of Iran. They were like this together. They fought the Byzantine together. This is why the Byzantine decided to punish them and change the name from Israel to Palestine so that they can punish the Jews by changing the name of the region they live in as Palestine. The reasoning why these Muslims destroyed the towns, militaristic towns of the Iranian Jews and started taking it over step by step is because they were financed by the African nation that today has been split down to multiple African nations, such as Ethiopia, Sudan, Somalia, Eritrea. All of these used to be one nation. The problem is, back in those days, they had to sell their goods by going up through the sea, the Red Sea, just like today, where all the ships go through the sea, the Red Sea. Back then, it was the same story. You had smaller boats together, and you would send your products through the sea so you can move faster, so you can reach big cities, so you can sell your incense and other stuff from Africa. But the problem is, because you're going in the sea, you had to go to the coastal regions of the sea because you don't want a big wave to come over and drown your boats. These are small boats. Since you're using coastal land, you have to pay a tax because now you fall under the protection of the people that rule the land and the coastal waters. Now, Yemen used to be part of Iran's city-state, which meant Iran charged the tax. These countries did not want to pay that. So the ideology was, let's break down a weakened superpower because the Romans and the Persians, as they call it, the Iranians, were at war with each other. Because they are at war, Byzantine being the eastern part of Rome, made out of Greeks and everybody else, this is why they still use Persia, because they were Greeks. They wanted to insult the Iranians by calling all of its tribes Persian. They decided these two are weak. If we attack one and take it out, we can then go after the other. We'll start with the Iranians so we don't have to pay them tax. We'll send the Arabs to do our dirty work so they don't attack us back if everything fails. There's a reason for it. But now that has to be covered up with this fake story that there was a Mecca and there was a this and there was a that and all this nonsense stories that you've been fed. They lie to you. Every single step you take in Islam, you'll find that they give you one lie after another lie. They have a lot of lies to feed you. So now we see all of Iran's borders and the continent of Africa, plus all the Africans in it, are the border of Fadak. Harun became displeased. You know, when he heard this, he refused it. He said, no. This doesn't work. I mean, in Harun's time, Africa was not fully invaded by the Arab Muslims. They had the northern part, but there was no way that you can say that the Muslims had all the way down to South Africa. That didn't exist. This did not happen during the time of the Prophet of Islam. During the Prophet's time, no part of Africa was taken. And during the time of the Prophet of Islam, no Iranian land was taken other than the Arabian Peninsula. So the Fadak that the Prophet of Islam took, under no circumstances, could have the borders that Musa al-Kazim is talking about. Its borders would have to be somewhere in Arabia. They want to hide the truth that instead of Mecca, there was a Petra. And Petra is right where Jordan is today, is in Samaria, Judea. It's next to Samaria, Judea. Petra is a viable area for trade because it's right there between the Byzantine and the Iranians. It's right there where the Jews are already doing trade. Remember the tables that Jesus threw and said, "You've turned my father's house, the temple, into a bazaar, into a market"? You remember that? People used to do trades there because it was next door to everybody. You can bring your goods, you bring your fabrics, you bring your incense, you bring your goats, you bring your whatever you want to trade and sell. The farmlands are right there. The farmers can just grab their stuff, walk a couple miles, and they can sell it. But they want to lie to you. There is a Kaaba with a Mecca. It's all lies. They didn't create this Mecca until more like the 12th century, 12 to 14. As a matter of fact, they're still working on creating this Mecca. It was the American engineering that came in to design so that the floods don't bring the poo-poo of the people into the Kaaba, because Kaaba is on a lower slope of land. So every now and again, yes, it's true, every now and again, even in Mecca, there is rain. Not a lot of rain. It's not England type of rain, but there is rain. And when that rain happens, you get a flooding effect. And all these houses, they had little doors at the bottom where they would wash their garbage and their dishes and their whatevers, and that would take it down to the bottom. As it goes down, when the flood hits, all that poo-poo and everything else comes and goes around the Kaaba. There's pictures of it. It exists. You can go and Google search it. You will find it. The Arabs were sick and tired of this. They asked the Americans, America is not an old country. They asked the Americans to come in there, use their engineering, design a method so that this flood doesn't bring poo-poo. Number two, shit doesn't bring it and wipe it all over the people that are going around this Kaaba structure. And they tell you this is an old city. I mean, they got new people, modern people, today's people trying to fix the city to become a city. And they want to lie to you that this is a city from thousands of years ago. Everything they tell you is a lie. If they tell you the truth, nobody will stay Muslim. Who today will be gutsy enough to come and stand in front of the people and proclaim that they are for slavery? Who today will do that? No one will do that, because it's a shameful act. Who today will stand up proudly in front of everyone in the West and say they are a pedophile? No one will do that. But you go to a Muslim country, you will find a 75-year-old man marrying a 6-year-old girl. You'll find them in the airports of Dubai grabbing a little 7-year-old girl. The guy's like 45 and he's grabbing a 7-year-old girl and trying to drag her away because that's his new supposedly wife, which we've discussed is not even a wife. It's a nikah contract. A nikah contract is a F-U-C-K-I-N-G contract, because the word for wife is the wash. Zawj is your wife, not nikah. Nikah means F-U-C-K-I-N-G. What you find in the XXX videos where the guy goes with force, that's nikah. So you have a nikah contract with a 7-year-old girl, which you call a woman. It became a woman now all of a sudden. 7 years old. A little tiny little baby. Yeah, a 45-year-old man. They take her from India and Pakistan, Afghanistan and wherever else. And now you're in Dubai, Dubai, man, Dubai, where, all the famous people go and buy island in Dubai. David Beckham buys an island in Dubai. Same island in Dubai, And they lie to you. Everything they tell you is a lie. It's important you watch programs like this because it will open your eyes to the truth. Globalists today, they want to destroy that land in the middle. Destroy Iran, destroy everybody else, make a whole bunch of new countries out of people that have never been a country of their own. They've been part of tribes that have together been a country. They want to separate those tribes, give them new countries so that today they can go and bully them and form them into slavery and a new version of slavery. Supposedly you have your own freedom with a puppet government that will enslave you, and then we will determine to that puppet government what they can and cannot do. Okay? And they will commit genocide on you. Another form of slavery. They just change the name a little bit here and there. Keep the people in the same position they are. So back to the story here. This mullah told us all this. And then, because they have to play psychological warfare, you see in Islam, when they give you a little bit of truth, like we just uncovered here and dissected it for you, the mullahs, they have to do something to get your attention off of what you read and redirect you somewhere else. Why? Because if they leave you on that discussion for too long, you will think of the subject you just read about. And by thinking, processing, digesting the word you just read in your head, you will understand they lied and you will not trust them. When that happens and you lose trust in them, you will doubt them. Because you doubt them, you are now going to be open to learning the truth. So they cannot have you in that path for too long. They got to move you from that path. To move you from that path, let's look at what they do. This is because the Imam, when they say Imam here, they mean that Musa al-Kazim. But they don't want you to remember Musa al-Kazim and all the crimes that he committed. So now they try to give his title that they want you to see him as. You know, this Imam title of untouchable, you know, he's at the very top. Because in Islam, the Sunnis, Imam is just a general title. You know, anybody can be Imam. If you go to the masjid and you want to pray and you're the first guy there and the others are behind you and the official Imam is not there, you are the Imam. You stand in front and they will stand behind you and you will pray. No problem. In Shia Islam, that's a no-no. You cannot give the title Imam to that guy. No, that guy can do all of that, but he's no longer an Imam. You see, in Islam, the Imam is the rightly guided representative of their so-called God, Allah, on earth. That is why they call all these guys Marja, Grand Ayatollahs, you know, Ayatollah al-Udama. You know, they have names like Muftis, which is similar to the Marja. Marja is the top Ayatollah al-Udama, which means the top Grand Ayatollah. You know, they give these kind of names. Smaller people get names like Hujjatul Islam. Iranians call all of them Akhund to make fun of them. But the word Imam in Shia Islam, which is what we're talking about here, in Shia Islam, the name Imam, that title, is the highest title you can get, which means God picked you. It's the distinction. God picked his prophet. God picked the 12 Ahlul Bayt of the prophet. And so this is God's title for you. Suppose. So when they put Imam in here, they want you to think, oh, high and mighty. Okay? Explain to him that some Islamic regions, okay? Some. From Aden to Saif al-Bihar belong to his authority. His authority. The Imam's authority. The guy who's in jail right now, handcuffed, because he slept with his own daughters, created inbred babies, sent them to go to war so they can die for his belief of taking land and ownership of all the Islamic area and killing the Khalif of the time. This guy believes all of this is under his authority, belonging to him. And then what did he say? that Harun and the caliphs before him possessed alone power to usurp the Khalifa and the members of the household of Ahlul Bayt. So Harun and the ones before him, they were here to try to kill off the Ahlul Bayt. Never mind that the Harun is part of the Abbasid Khilafah, who just took out the Umayyad Khilafah, who just decimated and committed extermination like you do to a cockroach. They committed extermination to the family of Muhammad, decimating and killing them all, right? So Abbasid Khilafat stood up and said, Umayyah, enough is enough. You're not allowed to kill this family no more. Leave them alone. And now this guy from that same family is accusing the guy who's protecting him as committing murderous acts on his family. Mindset of the Shia. Mindset of the Shia. Musa's attitude towards Harun, the tyrannical and negative, was strict and solid for the truth and justice. What truth and justice, man? You're talking about lands that don't belong to you. Until today, don't belong to Muslim countries like South Africa, Madagascar, and the rest. All of this and all of its people belong to you. What truth do you have? Iranians don't belong to you. So let's look at what he does. The guy who wrote this book, the Ayatollah, he says, we have explained it in the chapter of this book. We have explained it. Remember, earlier on, he was telling us how during the time of Musa al-Kazim, Iraq existed. Iraq existed. Iran existed. Kuwait existed. UAE existed. All these countries that just recently came in. Iran was the only one that existed. But the rest of them, the Oman, Yemen, Jordan, all these countries that after World War II, the French and the English decided to sit down and make borders for, and decided to make blunderous mistakes where the Kurds of Iran were now in 4 different countries because of the drawings of a bunch of English and Frenchmen. Because, they know best. They're from Europe, They know best what other countries look like. And today, they are putting their talking points in the mouth of people who have a lot of viewers on YouTube. So they can talk about, should Kurdistan exist as a country? Should the Kurdish people get a country of their own? And then you look at their flag, and 99% of this flag is in their flag. The only thing that's missing is the lion with the sword. They have the same sun, they have the same green, they have the same white, they have the same red, they have the same New Year's, they have the same everything. If an Iranian is listening to the Kurds speak, we can understand 98% of what they say. It's just like the difference between England's English and down South American accent English. Like a guy from England can understand what the guy from down South America is saying. He just may not be able to do the same accent. His words will sound different, but he will understand it fluently, and vice versa. And they will say, oh, it's a different language. Really? You who don't speak either are going to tell the guys that do speak them what it is. That's a new one. But it is the European way, The Europeans have always been like that, They always think they know better because, they're from Europe. It's just that, that's the disease of Europe. They think they know better, always. Even when they don't know anything about what they're talking about, they think they know better. And you are wrong if you point it out to them. It's always like that. For some weird reason, if you are from England, you think you know better than everybody else about everything. So what happens next? The Imam prevented his Shia followers from cooperating with the ruling authority. He told his Shias, don't. Like their famous grandfather, Joe Biden. And Joe Biden, during the Carter administration, he was the advisor to Carter. They put the Islamic Republic of Iran in. They committed the coup on the king. They put in Khomeini. Carter said, this is the man that will bring peace to the Middle East. I think he meant pieces. But anyway, he said peace to the Middle East. They put him inside their Bronco, their diplomatic Jeep Bronco that they had in Iran. They drove him around in Iran in the Jeep Bronco. Oh, let's go to the graveyard. You can give your speech at the graveyard. Because, the Iranian people, we're going to kill him anyway. So, this is going to be their house. So you go ahead and put him over there. And the Americans won't kill him directly, but you will. And we brought you in. So technically, it is you and us, but we'll just pretend it's you. The Democrats, ladies and gentlemen, brought them in. And I've kept them in power. Joe Biden's been there for 45 years. This is why he doesn't want to let go. He doesn't want to let go. Every terrorist organization, you see Joe Biden's signature is on it. Islamic Republic of Iran, 45 years. Then he came back in, and he was who? He was vice president for 2 terms, 8 years. What did we get during that time? Taliban, they were at the top of their power, right? Shooting Americans, killing Americans, doing whatever they wanted to do. ISIS on the other side, doing whatever they wanted to do. Jabal al-Nusra on the other side, doing whatever they wanted to do. The Islamic Republic of Iran became powerful again on steroids. Suitcases filled inside this airplane of theirs. Just sit it down. The whole airplane full of cash. Take, so they can fund other terrorist organizations, right? Then he came back as president for you. What did he do? He gave the same Taliban the country back with American weapons, made Iran strong again, allowed Iran to become so powerful so that they can go ahead and start war with Israel. He made Russia so powerful so that they can start their expansion ideas again. How did he do that for Russia? Took away the ban on their oil and natural gas sale, and he put it on the Americans. You're not allowed from fracking in America. No, don't use the pipelines between Canada and United States. Don't sell the American oil. We need Putin to sell so he can become powerful. And then we didn't do it. It wasn't in our hands. We didn't use our military. No, but you finance the others. It's a game. And the Islamic Republic of Iran, everything about them is political. As you can see, what are we reading? Taking over lands. What does taking over lands have to do with God? If they are so religious, and it's a religious ideology, they should be teaching the people about God, about obeying God, about following a path that leads you to the righteous of God, not about the people of Africa are going to be individual slaves of mine, and I have ownership over them, and the people of Iran are all slaves of mine, and I have ownership over them. That has nothing to do with God. That's more of a political statement. I want land, I want wealth, I want resources. At that time, they didn't know about resources. Today, they do. It's the political wing of Islam. What did he say after that? As an example, you see, when he starts off with his as an example, know that he's changing the direction because he talked too much. He gave you too much information. Now, if you digest that information, a whole new realm will open for you. So before you do that, he has to deflect you, move you a different way. It's psychological warfare on you, the reader. They got to keep you down. So they cannot allow you to think about what you read. So they bring out an example. Let's see what his example is, ladies and gentlemen. An example of that is that he prevented his companions, Safwan al-Jamal, to hire his camels to Harun, while the people used to hire them to go to Mecca and perform Hajj. I mean, think about it. Harun is the Khalif. So he's like the king, okay? Harun is the king. As a king, if he wanted camels, he can simply go and buy camels. He's got the richness of the whole entire country in his pocket. I mean, if President Joe Biden, let's make it an example that you can get. President Joe Biden, okay? If he wants to go and buy a car while he's a president of the country, he can buy whatever car he wants. The government funding is there for him. When he flies, does he not fly in Air Force One, which is provided to him by the government? When his motorcade of cars go by, are they not provided by the government? Are they not the top of the top? Bulletproof and everything else? Custom made to the nth degree? Same thing here. Harun is the king. If he wants something, snap the finger, it's provided. If he wants 100 camels, they'll give him 101. He can go to all the camel breeders and buy everything else. He's the king. Who can stop him? Nobody. Now, all of a sudden, this guy is going to tell him, hey, Shias, hey, listen, Mr. Safwan, come here. Listen, you don't sell and you don't rent out your camels to the Khalif, the king, okay? The guy is going to say, okay, because you said so. I mean, you're in prison. What power do you have? You know it's a lie. Why are we talking about this guy and his camels that the Shias and the Muslims used to hire to go to Mecca for Hajj? Why are we talking about? We were talking about Fadak and its borders. What does that story have to do with Safwan al-Jamal now not selling his or renting his camels to Harun? What the heck? What kind of example is this? It's a deflection. Let's take your mind off of what we were just talking about. Slavery, ownership of people. Let's take your mind off of that. Let's take your mind off of all blacks are slaves. I mean, if two black people have a baby, because he's black, according to what we read here, he is owned by Musa al-Kazim. From day one, he popped out. Congratulations, now you're owned. Same with the Iranians. So to get your mind off of this, now we're going to talk about this guy renting his camels. And then he gives you more examples. You know, the example is not just one. Here he says again, yet another example is that the Imam prevented Zayd bin Abi Salima from working for the authority. Ooh. You're not allowed to go and do some work for them, because if you do, it's bad. You got to work for my authority, My authority in prison, you got to work for mine, not for theirs. So essentially, he's against the state. The rules of every country is if you go against your state, they kill you. It's treason. You don't go against your state. That's what he's doing from inside of a prison. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll end this program here because this is how far we got in the Persian language. If you like our programs, if you listen to this, you like it, if you're learning something new, right, that you haven't heard anywhere else, and I guarantee you won't hear what we talk about in other places. You might hear them talk about Sunnis, and if they're talking about Sunnis and they're teaching you something like Rob Christian would do, Christian Prince is doing, and others do, for sure, subscribe to them, like them, leave them comments. But if you like our program as well, make sure you do the same, because we need the algorithm bots of YouTube to advertise this for us. The more you like it, the more you subscribe, the more comments you put for us, the more those bots will put this in the feed of people who have not heard about our channel yet, who've seen other channels that you have seen. So we can get more viewers that are like-minded like you to learn the truth. And as you know, truth sets you free. So go ahead, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Under our program, there's a link for our link tree. Go ahead and click on our link tree. You will find everywhere that I'm on social media. Go ahead and click on them and join us on all the social media, because what we cannot share here, we share in our other pages where we have more power and it's more transparent, more open, and allows us to do more, because Susan Wachkiki and her YouTube doesn't give us that much power. So until our next program, I leave you in the hands of Jesus. God bless all of you. Merry Christmas to all of you once again. Bye for now.